Well, the odds aren't looking good for the U.S. economy. The Treasury yield curve indicates that a 60% chance our economy is heading straight back into recession and that it could happen within the next 12 months. Now, this bond market indicator has successfully predicted every U.S. recession since 1970, so it's worth looking at. Time to let the Willis Watchdogs out. Dr. Gina Loudon is the host of the Dr. Gina Show in Birmingham, Alabama. Lindsay Piegza is an economist, and George Jarkesy is the chairman of the National Eagles and Angels Association. Lindsay, let's start with you. This is the no bull, you know what I'm talking about indicator,
Well,
right?
here's the thing. This time around, it doesn't necessarily mean what it has in the past. Essentially, this is what the Fed is trying to do. Manipulate the yield curve and lower the spread between long-term and short-term rates. So essentially, that's where we get this twist, where we call Operation Twist. Relatively lower long-term rates is set to increase investment and spark the economy, while relatively higher short-term rates is expected to stem capital flows and actually balance out that current payment. So this is what the Fed wants to see, flatten out the curve and essentially invert it if we do see an extreme case.
Wow.
So while the economy certainly is on very, very fragile ground, this indicator in and of itself is not enough to predict a recession.
So, George, do you think we're headed into recession?
Yes, I do. I think that the issue with the economy right now is that even if that money does get freed up, it's not going to make it down to the small businesses that employ the majority of Americans. And there's a problem with the banking system for one thing, but also in the trading you've seen in the last couple months. We have now a very difficult situation where it lacks confidence, and it's not only here in America, but also you're seeing it overseas.
Let me tell you, the lack of confidence issue is huge. Gina, to you, your viewers, your listeners, when they call in, what are they saying about the economy?
Well, precisely as he just said, you know, business owners, they don't know what to do. They can't predict what their taxes are going to do. They can't predict new regulations from an environmental regulation or other tax regulations, labor regulations. No one knows what this president's going to pull out of his hat next. But I would say about the best, most positive economic indicator that gives me just a little hope is just the very fact that this American business grit, the people who own the businesses right now, have managed not to completely let this administration crush them yet. That gives me about the best hope I have.
And, you know, you guys bring up small business operators. That's what our next story is about. Small business owners starting to look on the brighter side. The National Federation of Independent Business says small business optimism grew in September. Don't celebrate yet, though. Figures are still way below pre-recession numbers. George, do you have a sense that people out there are feeling more optimistic?
I do have a sense of this, and what you're seeing is they've been beat down by regulation. They've been beat down by the economy. They've been beat down by consumers disappearing. They've been beat down by banks that won't lend. And now what you have is they're not getting beat for a couple months, so they feel better. And I really think that's what it is. It's not that they're just tired. They got a break.
Any good news you can find, right, Gina? I mean, you were talking about how small business operators are without enthusiasm, but they are looking around the corner, and what do they see? Do they see a better economy?
Well, again, hats off to our American entrepreneur and their spirit that is so rugged and determined through all of the confusion. But, you know, when you have a president who one day is telling business owners, go create jobs, and the next day he's saying, you know, post a poster in your lunchroom that tells your employees how to organize against you, we shouldn't be surprised when such schizophrenic messages are resulting in confusion.
Well, I think when we actually look at this index and we see what's driving the rise, it's an increase in expectations for consumer spending, which is surprising given the tepid labor market conditions. But last month, we saw retail sales came in flat. September retail sales, which are expected out on Friday, are actually anticipated to rise 0.7%. This is the fastest pace of growth that we've seen in 6 months, and this alone has fueled some of that business optimism.
Can I tell you, I just want to see somebody else spend besides me. Can it not be consumers we have to rely on all the time? Just one woman's view. All right, here's another good story. Drivers across the country are facing yet another round of toll hikes, some of which are double original fees. States and communities are expecting to rake in billions of dollars to build, repair roads, intensifying, that is, the debate over how the country should pay to maintain highways. Gina, we're seeing it big time here in New York. I'm telling you, I don't know how people who drive into the city every day are going to do it.
Well, the thing is, people have to really watch. They've got to crush these things when they don't have a definite death date, you know, because the thing that we all know about bureaucrats is that they love to bring these things in and then they never ever go away. So if there's no definite death date, watch for bureaucrats to just, you know, make it a cash cow and labor unions to make it a cash cow. So the things that consumers need to watch for, if they're not going to crush them, is that it is definitely a usury situation, maybe for a new road, but not to do old repairs and things that shouldn't be done that way. It just becomes a cash cow.
We got to leave it there, guys. Sorry, we're kind of short on time today. I've been too talkative entirely. That's what it boils down to. Gina, Lindsay, and George, thanks so much for coming in tonight. Great job.